The first joint practice for the Green Bay Packers of the 2025 offseason was today versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Packers traveled to Indianapolis yesterday for their first joint practice today ahead of the Week 2 preseason game this coming Saturday. So let's react to and break down all the practice highlights from today. We have a bunch of 1v1 clips for you guys, and then also talk about all the takeaways from today's practice, what happened in team sessions as well. If you're just stopping by for the first time and you enjoy this type of content, I'd really appreciate it if you went down and clicked that subscribe button. You'll stay in the loop with everything Green Bay Packers this offseason. All the roster news and practice notes you'll find all here on this channel. The Green Bay Packers preseason is now upon us, with the regular season following quickly behind. So right now is the perfect time to start finding tickets for a Green Bay Packers game. And that's why I want to give a massive shout out to today's video sponsor, SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and even more. With the NFL season right around the corner, that means tons of different football games and, more importantly, Packers games to potentially go to. Nothing is better than seeing the Green Bay Packers live in action. Right now, you can find super great deals on any of the upcoming Packers preseason games or regular season games. And if you want to find great deals on Packers tickets, SeatGeek has you covered. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 through 10, 1 being bad, 10 being amazing. Look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use code Basaraski10 to get 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any set of tickets with promo code Basaraski10. Make sure to go click the link in the description and download the app, and you'll automatically have that code added to use later. Again, a big thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. All right, so now back into the video. Let's dive into it. In this first clip, we see Jordan Love at practice. Now, more importantly, the cast on his left arm here. We got the news yesterday that Jordan Love suffered a torn ligament in his left non-throwing hand thumb during that Jets game on the last play where he got sacked, and he did have surgery on that left thumb. But Matt LaFleur noted that surgery went really well. They're in high spirits, and he also said that he does anticipate that there will be some sort of participation for Jordan Love next week, which is great to hear. Now, I doubt he practices next week against the Seahawks. They have a joint practice then next week as well, and I doubt he plays in that Seattle game. But even if he gets back in some sense with limited action, getting in the reps with whoever's that wide receiver, because there's a ton of injuries we're about to go into still, but also getting reps with Elton Jenkins is going to be massive. So hopefully he can return to practice sooner rather than later and then get prepared for that big game, home opener in Green Bay versus Detroit Week 1. Here in this clip, we see a bunch of the Green Bay Packers injured wide receivers. Jaden Reed, Tay Wicks, Romeo Doubs, and Savion Williams in that order. But more importantly, you see Jaden Reed no longer in that walking boot, so signaling that he may be close to a potential limited return. Now, again, similar to Love, I don't see him practicing jointly against the Seahawks or playing in the game against the Seahawks next week. But again, getting back into practice would be huge. Wicks is a surprising one. I didn't expect him to be out this long after I saw the clip of him hobbling around the sideline a couple weeks ago. So hoping he's nearing a return as well. And then Romeo Doubs, it is classified as a back injury, and it didn't seem that significant, at least when LaFleur talked about it. And I think he'll be back sooner rather than later. And then Savion Williams, not really sure the injury. He's had a plethora of random small injuries this camp. You see a left leg sleeve, so I'm thinking it has to do with his left leg, but I'm not entirely sure. But the Packers are very, very thin at wide receiver, and yesterday they claimed another wide receiver off waivers from the Raiders, and it was Kawan Baker, who actually spent time with the Green Bay Packers in 2022 that offseason, and their corresponding move was waiving cornerback Isaiah Dunn, who had a pretty rough performance in that first preseason game. All right, so now let's dive into the 1v1 clips we have. And of course, we have a couple Matthew Golden 1v1 clips with no other real starting wide receivers out there, really. it's Matthew Golden versus everyone. And he still did very well in 1v1s. And this is a tremendous, tremendous rep. I mean, just watch that out route, the sink of the hips, the suddenness, the quickness at the top of this route, right? Outside shade, threaten inside, sink the hips, swipe underneath, break outside. This is against Alex Johnson, who's the backup nickel corner of the Colts. Still just a tremendous route, gaining so much separation. This is teaching tape right here. Like if you're teaching a wide receiver how to perfectly sink your hips at the top of a route and get in and out as quick as possible, this is it. This is a 10 out of 10 to run an out route versus outside shade. Matthew Golden looks like a veteran already in this wide receiver room. And I think early he will signify himself as wide receiver one of the Green Bay Packers. And he's going to get the opportunity because we have so many injuries at wide receiver right now. I've honestly seen enough bubble wrap Matthew Golden until week 1. Here's another angle of it just to show you how much separation Golden really got on that. And yes, it's a backup nickel corner for the Colts, and wide receiver 1v1s, they should win 85% of the time against lesser competition at quarterback. But what you're really watching here is how he runs the route, his release, how he snaps down, how he attacks outside shade, and it's all by the book. And it's just beautiful. He gains so much separation here. I'm so excited for this connection to start to heat up in 2025. And if you're saying to yourself, who the heck is Alex Johnson? Well, here's a rep against Charvarius Ward. Again, that diamond release slant, what we saw against Nixon a couple weeks ago. And Charvarius Ward's a former Pro Bowler in 2023, second team All-Pro in 2023. And again, for the 15th time, 1v1s favor the wide receiver. But how he attacks this, and usually you'd have to swipe underneath with a hand. He creates so much separation. He doesn't even have to use his hands to swipe underneath. Usually you'd be reaching for the back of the elbow, the back of the shoulder pad to swipe underneath on a diamond release. He doesn't even have to do that because he threatens vertically so well, and he's such a fast wide receiver that cornerbacks are scared of him going over the top, that he creates enough separation on this release to just go underneath for that quick slant, easy completion, and probably a massive gain in a game sense, depending on what defense they're in. All right, so now let's rotate into some defensive 1v1 highlights. And here is Carrington Valentine versus A.D. Mitchell. And it's going to be a rocker step, post corner. And honestly, I think Valentine played this well. It was just a severely underthrown ball and just an excellent adjustment by A.D. Mitchell here to come back on that and get his feet in. A.D. Mitchell's been having a wonderful camp for the Colts. He was cooking Ravens defensive backs in last week's joint practice, including Jair Alexander. And I'll show you a rep after this that you're going to go, oh man, Carrington Valentine was lost out there. But I don't think he was here. I like this rep by Carrington Valentine. I think he doesn't bite on that rocker step on the top of this route. You'll see it, right? Inside release. Doesn't really bite on that at all, that rocker step. I like seeing him just watch the hips of A.D. Mitchell, and his hips tell that, hey, I'm going to be breaking outside. And Valentine plays it well. It's just a very poorly thrown ball by Danny Jones, so A.D. Mitchell comes back, and Valentine just doesn't have enough time or doesn't quickly react to the ball being up in the air. He can't spot it quick enough, and A.D. Mitchell just does a great job. Now, here's the one I'm not going to have many excuses for. A comeback route, and man, Carrington Valentine is lost out there. A little bit of a hesitation, right, to signify, oh, maybe I'm running a double move and I'm sticking with a 9. Love that little hesitation there by AD. And Valentine's just lost in this. He looks lost from the beginning, kind of like he's playing catch up since the release because AD Mitchell is just so damn fast. And I'd like to see better reaction here, right? I still think A.D. Mitchell, right, should get open on this and should catch the ball in this. He should win this rep. But to see that, you don't want to see that. And yeah, the Packers are going to have some help over top, and this isn't a game sense, but a comeback route 1v1, that happens a lot in games. The Packers don't play much man coverage, and I don't expect them to this year either as much, but this is still, you got to have a better rep than this. You can't be, 7 yards off the receiver when he catches it. It just looks like a lazy rep. Maybe Valentine was, out of gas. I'm not really sure. I still think Valentine's had a wonderful camp for the Packers, and this doesn't define him. 1v1 rep doesn't define him, which favors the wide receiver again. But yeah, you can't give too many excuses for this one here. That's for sure. Now here's a rep of Packers safety Katana Olapo versus Anthony Gould. Just a simple 9 route. And a beautiful ball by Anthony Richardson. I'm not too mad at this rep by Katana Olapo, right? He's kind of in a press look, which out of the nickel, is he going to be manned up, press versus a slot wide receiver? Highly unlikely. This is a wonderful split release, right? Little hesitation by Gould, turns on the burners. That little hesitation allowed him to gain a little bit more separation because also Katana Olapo hesitated on that a little bit there. Wonderful rep by Richardson to Gould here, but I'm not too mad at this. And Katana Olapo stepped up heavily so far in the absence of Zane Anderson. He's been getting a lot of first team looks at safety and in the nickel, and I think he's going to turn into a good depth safety to have on this roster. And in my opinion, should end up getting snaps over Zane Anderson on the defense. Say if there's an injury to either X or Evan Williams or one of them needs a breather. In my opinion, I think Olapo could be the next man up. This is just a good rep by the Colts here. All right, so now let's move over to the takeaways from today's practice. Another injury note was that Israel Abanikanda did return to practice today with the hamstring injury, so I think he only missed one practice. Now, the main takeaway from today's practice was that the Packers defense dominated the Colts offense. More importantly, the Packers defensive line, the front seven. I mean, put the Colts offensive line in a blender. During the first teams period, 11v11s, the Packers ended up with 5 total sacks. Yeah, you heard that right. 5 total sacks. One by Rashawn Gary versus Braden Smith. Lucas Van Ness beat Bernard Raymond, and he also had another sack later in practice. So a 2-sack day for LVN, who's been so hot in camp and actually using pass rush moves. You love to see it. Quay Walker had an A-gap sack. Tyron Hopper had an A-gap sack, and also Colby Wooden, just a straight bull rush up the middle, who's been very impressive. That nose tackle spot as well had a would-be sack today. And also later in practice, Baron Sorrell had a sack as well. Just overall terrific day for DeMarcus Covington and his guys down on that defensive line. The defense also shut down the Colts offense in red zone, and the Colts are rotating quarterbacks. They're trying to figure out who's their starter, and Richardson and Danny Jones, and it hasn't looked wonderful for either side. So I expected the Packers to win this practice in terms of defense, as I would expect the offense not to win against the Colts defense, which was kind of what happened, and we'll go over that here. But Keyshawn Nixon also had a interception off a tipped pass, which is nice to see in team sessions. And then also Javon Bullard stripped A.D. Mitchell after a catch, and Evan Williams recovered. The Packers have been practicing that heavily, stripping the football. Jeff Hafley talked about it. Hey, we got a lot of interceptions last year, but we need to force more fumbles. And the Packers have been really training at that. So really nice to see Javon Bullard go in, rip that ball out from A.D. Mitchell, and for the Packers to recover Evan Williams to get on top of it. Then also with the twos, John Baldwin had an interception as well. Now, on the flip side, the Packers offense did struggle a bit to open up team sessions. Malik Willis overshot Matthew Golden. He was open on a crosser route. There's a couple pre-snap flags, things you expect without your quarterback one. Everything's changing, right? It's all a little bit different. And then also we saw Rasheed Walker rotating in at left tackle, one as well with Jordan Morgan, so he was back in team sessions yet again. The offense also stalled on the goal line in the red zone period, whereas the second team offense actually scored in the red zone period. It was a touchdown pass from El Gersma to Julian Hicks. Now, the first team offense did start to warm up as practice went on. Malik Willis ended up finding Matthew Golden for a couple times. He used his feet very well to scramble around. And also, Marshawn Lloyd had a nice red zone touchdown run. So nice to see him kind of stacking practices here without, re-aggravating his groin issue. And I'm really hoping he does end up playing in this Saturday game. Really excited to see some Marshawn Lloyd. A recent signing at receiver that's been really making plays every day, it seems like, is Isaiah Nair. He's been really stepping up in a very light wide receiver room right now, so that's good to see. Malik Heath also had a red zone touchdown from Sean Clifford today. But overall, just not a terrific day by the offense. But that was to be expected against a starting Colts defense. The Packers are without Jordan Love. They're without, 4 of their starting wide receivers in Jaden Reed, their starting slot guy, Dobbs, Wicks, Watson, and also a depth guy that they just drafted in Savion Williams. So it's really just Matthew Golden with Malik Willis with that starting offense and Malik Heath as well. So to be expected, the Packers offense struggled a little bit, but the main takeaway was definitely the defense. Really nice to see them get a ton of pressure today against this Colts offensive line. And it seems like DeMarcus Covington has been a great hire thus far. Don't want to get ahead of myself. It's still just training camp, and let's see what happens when the season is underway. But it looks good so far. And to wrap things up, kicking, McManus perfect yet again. Yeah, I mean, how many times are we going to say it? He was 5 for 5 kicking today, including a 56-yarder. He's been lights out. And even after the kicking session, just messing around, he attempted a 70-yarder that went in off the crossbar and in. Is absolutely insane. And also backup kicker Mark McNamee was perfect today as well, 3 for 3. He should remain on the Packers roster into the season as that 91st player, the International Pathway Program. So that does it for all the takeaways from the Packers versus Colts joint practice. I believe this is training camp practice number 15. The Packers are off tomorrow, and then they, of course, have that preseason game there on Saturday. I will be live on my channel, so to make sure to come on by, watch the game, join the watch party during that Colts preseason game. But I really appreciate you guys coming by. If you could leave a like down below, it supports the channel a ton. But I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.